Where is Q? Late today? Nah, I had an unexpected guest trying to buzz around in my room. But we're all ready today. Is he late? I know what time it is. I actually had to take care of some extra things, so I apologize for my lateness. It's time for us to get started with the newest chapter of One Piece. Peoples, Qushu 92 here. Welcome back to more One Piece. Once again, I apologize for being late today, but I am so happy to see what happens after Gabin gave Luffy the wake-up call of a lifetime. And it also appears that we're going on break again after this chapter. So I get another break. So that's fine. That's perfectly fine by me. But I have to say, before we get started on this news chapter, first of all, let me get this chat over here off to the side. I'm not at the point yet where I have like a secondary monitor, not that I need it right now, to where I can have chat off to one side and then what's happening in front of me in front of the other. So, but this is fine though. This is fine. You guys know me. Let me see everybody who's in chat. If it'll just let me see everyone here. Yes, Kratos. And I see Enemy Juke. I see Ravi. I see Ozzy. I see Cohagen. I see, who else is here? Yep. So there's a lot of things that happened recently because One Piece Day started I think on the 21st or I think 22nd. A lot of stuff got revealed, including we're getting a God Valley movie. What? We're getting a God Valley movie? We're getting a God Valley movie. And we're also getting another movie later on in the future as well. Not only that, but we also got the reveal for Koza and his father, and we also got the reveal of Pell and Chaka, all these different peoples from the Battle of Alabasta for the One Piece Netflix show. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to learn. But manga, Toei, Wiz, live action, Lego specials, 2 movies. Yeah, we're getting a lot today. But today, I have to say this before we get started. Yet the last chapter we got of One Piece was by far the most important for Luffy, because all this time Luffy has literally been getting by through these fights, not only through sheer luck, but also for his own tenacity. But going up against Emu of all people has revealed that Luffy ain't at the level to fight someone like Emu yet. And Gabin was all like, you need to be so strong that people literally wish for your death at the mention of your name. It's not like, oh, you want to be a king of the pirates? Well, let's just traipse around the Grand Line, traipse around in the New World, and we'll get by just fine due to sheer friendship and happiness. And if you think that's gonna happen for you, then you need to give up the life of a pirate, because you ain't built for this. One of the most important talks Luffy has ever had, because Luffy has always been able to overcome his foes, but what happens when the foe is just way too much for him to overcome? The last time that happened, it was literally when all of the Straw Hats got separated, because none of them were even ready to fight someone of Kizaru's level then. At all. That's the last time Luffy was all like, we're not built for this yet. And now we're kind of reaching another moment where Luffy needs to be reminded, you need to be stronger than strong. But that's enough of my recap. Onwards to the next chapter. I gotta move some stuff back around because I was trying to move stuff when I shouldn't have. But here we are with chapter 1191. And we have Soul Never Ages, which is a color cover spread that is featuring all of the Straw Hats basically singing and jamming out. Aside from, like people like Jinbei and Zoro. But we got everyone in either big shaggy afros, and they got like big microphones in front of them, and they're all singing, like Usopp and Luffy are singing. Sanji, he's getting in the groove and dancing. Got like these 3 birds that are on top of Luffy's head as well. We got a wolf singing as well. We got a cat singing. We got Nami listening in. We got Jinbei who's just chilling in the background. Zoro's just constantly drinking, Chopper on the tambourines, Robin listening as well, Frankie on the guitar, and Brook is center. He's the one who's featured on here the most because he's the biggest one. But let's get started with chapters. Chapter 1191, they're still Loki. And then we begin with Luffy struggling to get up because remember, at the end of the last chapter, Gavin used his strongest attack against Emu, and Emu used a brand new sword that basically took off Gavin's left arm. So this is yet another person who gave up their left arm in order to save Luffy. So Luffy's struggling to get up, huffing and puffing, still bleeding, still in gear 5, mind you. After everything that's been done to him, he's still in that state. Why am I still alive? If I go out of this form, it's gonna be bad news. Wow, so he's staying in gear 5 through sheer force of will, because if he goes back to his normal state, then he's going to be in his haggard old man state, and he won't be able to do anything, and he'll literally just bleed out and die. Hey, old man guy! Darn it, he got my arm. Sorry, it's only because you were defending me. Don't be stupid. I've lost my hope in you. I was fighting for Elbaf's sake. I guess we can't let things end this way, huh? Old man guy, who is he? And then Gavin just sits up, and he immediately makes a tourniquet for his arm. And cuts off the bleeding. Who he is. And he's keeping himself from bleeding. Who he is not something anyone ought to know. If I had to call him anything, it'd be God. And then we cut to the underworld. Because this is where I got hiccups. Dang it. I hate having hiccups while I'm trying to read. But then we cut to the underworld. The underworld, because Emu fell there. And we got all these big creatures getting closer and closer to where Emu is. All of these giant animals. And they immediately get knocked out because Emu is outputting conquerors. They just immediately fall over and foam at the mouth. Crew of the King of the Pirates. I failed to foresee what would become of those mere children at God Valley. Wow. I should have eliminated it all. I should have eliminated all of it, along with rocks, on that day years ago. And Emus starts changing even more. Emu starts changing again, like his hand is held up while he says, I should have eliminated all of it, along with rocks, on that day years ago. And his hand gets even bigger, but it also gets more monstrous looking. Are we about to witness the full demon form of Emu? Because Emu has apparently, if we're saying that his powers comes from an actual devil fruit, well, the devil's fruit, and the form we've seen could be seen as the hybrid form, the man-beast form, then what he's changing into could be the full demon form. But he's sitting up. He's no longer bleeding from his head. His horns look even more curved, and they're over his eyes even more than they were before. Because beforehand, they were small, and now all of a sudden, they're getting big, like Nosferatu's Zod big. And then he looks and glares, and he shoots up into the sky, destroying more of the mountain he landed in a massive burst of power and hockey lightning coming off of it. Then we get to the Owl Library with Biblo! We're here with Biblo! Owl Library, Sunworld, rear entrance tunnel. And we have Chopper.
Oh, I'm so glad. All the books are fine, too. All the books are fine, then.
Yes, Biblo saved them all.
So here's the thing, Chopper. I was hoping you could talk to Biblo for us. It seems like he's trying to tell us something, but I can't tell what it is.
Really? I just assumed Biblo was a silent owl.
Hoo, 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 hoo. Hoo, oh, hoo, oh, hoo, 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 hoo.
And then Chopper's all like, what? And then all of a sudden, Hockey just starts emanating. Hockey just starts emanating throughout all of Elbaf, and Gabin and Luffy fall over because the Hockey is hurting them. Like, Gabin immediately grabs onto his arm, and Luffy falls over, and they both scream out in pain. Emu's Hockey is hurting them so much right now. And then Emu literally punches away a whole branch. Literally punches away a whole branch in a bigger form than before. And he's in full demon mode. Oh my, and we see like a whole covenant mark on his arm now. Yo. He looks like bosses who have a second phase in Neo and they go even even more yokai than they were before. He rises into the air. Body bigger than it was, wings bigger than it was, horns bigger than they were. He has multiple horns. He has giant horns coming out of the front of his head and curving up like Hellboy, and then additional ones that's coming out of an area behind it even further. His chest is broader. His shoulders and arms are cloaked in black omen flames. His legs, they're cloaked in black omen flames as well, and they form full-on boots, and he speaks. An impressive feat to escape Honebami's wrath at the cost of only one arm. And then Gavin screams, "Hey, you're stepping on my line. I couldn't let you get off scot-free after an attack like that. There will be nothing left of thee after the next. I'd give you a round of applause, but, you know." And Gavin is making light of the fact that his arm is gone. Is that him? But he looks different. Take your people and get off Elbaf now, Straw Hat. You know I can't do that. You're a dead man walking here. You're useless. So are you. You can't fight like that. Honebami. And then Emu in an even more monstrous form. And here's another thing. Emu's form now has like a super pointed goatee that's coming out of his chin now. Honebami! And he goes in to kill both Luffy and Gabin. You can't do it! Run! And when it looks like Emu's getting closer to Gabin, old man guy! A stomp comes in, and then Harudin! Harudin comes in! Gungnir! Harudin comes in and intercepts him! Harudin! Yeah! And then proceeds to punch Emu, but not before Emu creates another omen flame. And then Harudin flexes his muscles, digs deep into the branch, and then punches him far, but not before Emu just casually lets off a couple of omen flames, just flicks them at him. And then while Emu gets punched into the trunk of Elbaf, Harudin appears to get hit by these omen flames. And Emu is embedded he's embedded a little bit inside of the tree. And he's coughing again. And then it shows Harudin's buckler that he usually uses. It's hissing because it was on fire. And then it breaks to the ground. You'll never get me with that one again. because he remembers the last time Harudin was ready for Emu to use those Omen Flames on him, because that's how Emu got the jump on him the very first time he showed up to Elbaf. He remembered and then had a buckler ready to repel the attack.
You'll never get me with that one again. Mr. Ya, how can this be? He took off your arm?
Thanks for the help, Harudin. But he's immortal. There's no way to win. Help Straw Hat Luffy escape.
Straw Hat!
Hey, stay out of this! I'm not running away!
Listen to me, boy. What can you do with those injuries?
I'm healing up my wounds right now!
What nonsense are you talking?
I made sure to fight on a full stomach. Don't worry, I can do this! And while Luffy's saying that, he's, his body starts pumping his legs and his body's inflating.
That's not real logic. You can't keep fighting, it's clear.
And then more Omen Flames come in. Oh, bombs! And then Harudin moves in the way of both Luffy and covers both Gabin and Luffy, and he basically allows the Omen bombs to hit him straight in the back. Harudin!
Here he comes. Pull back so we can come up with a plan, Harudin.
And Emu's just floating above him. He really is an end boss. And Emu's just looking at him.
Remember, Mr. Ya, Elbaf will never give in. Our warriors are always prepared to die in glorious battle.
Don't be stupid, you will die.
But if I die, there's still Loki.
That's right, brother.
Loki, square up.
And oh, Loki's up! Loki's up! There's still Loki! Loki's up! And Emu's just looking, and Luffy goes, and look, I'm all better too. And Luffy just puffs his body up, so it's like, so he's stronger again.
What's wrong with these guys?
Come. And then both Loki and Harudin gear up as just like Dory and Baragi.
Triple General Gokoku Sovereignty!
And both Luffy, Loki, and Harudin hit Emu full force as he basically puts his hands up to brace for the attack while he's in this state, mind you, and he gets hit with the Triple General Gokoku Sovereignty. And that's where we end the chapter. The Spear of Elbaf. Woo! Man, I'm glad it's not some back pull that Luffy just regenerates. It's the same thing that we've seen all series of him just healing by eating. That's where we end the chapter. This is the chapter we go on break for as we see Luffy, Loki, and Harudin unleash a Gokoku sovereignty directly on Emu. But I think this is also supposed to be a bit of a concern because Emu has decided, you know what? I'm going to go further into my form, looking even more demonic than ever before, showcasing even more power, literally punching away an entire branch of Elbaf and his haki, visibly harming both Luffy and Gabin. The last time we saw haki actually hurt somebody when it was felt by them was Emu when he felt Joy Boy's haki. And Gabin keeps telling Luffy that you're too weak. This isn't going to work. Luffy and Gabin did not fall because of Emu's haki. Okay, so what were they falling because he basically shoved the branch away? Are you sure? Because when it shows the panel of the haki emanating through the trees, all of a sudden both Gabin and Luffy fall. For both of them to be falling because they're in pain because of their injuries, I feel like it might be a bit too coincidental if that's the case. Also, one other thing I wanted to note about Emu's design is that he no longer has the ring of omen around his back. It now surrounds his waist and both of his arms. So now they've turned into like floating bands of omen around him now. And his wings also look like they're inflamed as well. Not just regular black wings, but their wings as if they're made of omen as well. They're emanating like the flames. Wait a minute, hold on. Let me see if only Emu fall to underworld, change forms, and come back. No, I'm not saying that Luffy and Gaben fell into the underworld. I'm saying that they fell over because they could feel Emu's haki. Because here's the thing, though. Luffy and Gaben are on a completely different branch than where Emu punches up from. It's not the same branch that they're on. It's the one next to them. Either that or the perspective is him literally punching away both of the branches at the same time. Because it doesn't show like the sound effect for like rumbling or shaking directly underneath Luffy and Gaben. Not unless I'm wrong here. But it feels like that. I think the whole arm is covered in haki too, like Bounce Man, and this is the first time we're seeing the Covenant tattoo on Emu's arm. Yeah. This is the first time we're actually seeing the mark on his arm. Maybe you're right, I read it that way. I see it as like they feel Emu's haki because as soon as he powered up, even more haki emanated from him, and it's crazy how reminiscent of appearance to Bounce Man Emu does indeed have. Because both his arms and legs are coated in haki, but they don't end in like a flame-like pattern. If anything, it looks like the edges of his arms, like where it separates the shoulder and the chest from, it almost looks a little bumpy, as if it's like a fur lining of some kind. If you pay attention to the panel, there's some pronounced highlights and edges along what appears to be cuffs of these sleeves on his arm, and that's his new appearance now. Still got the skulls going across his chest. They're no longer on his tail, though. They're now... Actually, these were not on Emu when he was in his slimmer form. Now the skulls that were along his waist and along the tattered tail he had around him is now going across his chest instead. Wow. This is also, holy moly, we're having a God Valley One Piece movie. Yeah, Fizz, we're having a brand new one, man. Did read the chapter, so it's all good. Also, if you ask me, I don't think this is his final form. The big devil from the Harley mural, anyone? See, that's the first thing that popped into my head as well. Seeing Emu in this state, I wonder if it's like stages, like Frieza has different stages until he reaches his true final form. And this is not like the full devil, but then again, it could be because, I mean, it is a much bigger form. So going through this chapter, Emu goes into actually, hold on, let me see the size comparison, because when it shows Emu punching away one of the branches to get up to where Gaben and Luffy are, he's big, but he's not as big as the shape he was when he was facing off against Sabo in the throne room. It's not that size, because even then, when the elders were in like their essential yokai states and yaoi states, Emu basically dwarfed all of them. And while Emu is big here, he's definitely way bigger than he was in his slimmer form. It's not the same size as whatever form he was taking against Sabo in the throne room. So like I said, there were levels to how powerful Luffy has to get. in One Piece, there appears to be levels to how many forms Emu actually has, because we don't know the maximum. And for all we know, he could definitely turn into that sizable demonic figure we saw in the Harley mural. This could just be another stage, but not the final one. So in this chapter, we just see Gabin berating Luffy, telling him you need to get out of here. And Luffy's all like, old man, who is he? Who he is not something anyone ought to know. If I had to call him anything, it'd be God. That is literally a member of the Roger Pirates, referring to Emu as God. Then we get the creatures surrounding Emu, and Emu knocks them all out with Conquerors. Emu laying down bleeding after suffering that attack. His omen ring literally a distance away from him, his sword embedded in the ground. Him just laying down like Loki from the MCU, wondering what just happened to him, going, crew of the King of Pirates. Yo, DJ, good to see you. Welcome back. Crew of the King of the Pirates. I failed to foresee what would become of those mere children at God Valley. I should have eliminated all of it along with rocks on that day years ago. And then he basically turns into a much bigger form. And if I want to be real with you, the way they cast the shadow of this bigger form of himself, it's not an exact replica of what that form represents in the Harley, but it's kind of reminiscent a little bit. Horns sticking out. We don't see his facial structure and everything, but we do see that he has an even beefier form, a bigger, beefier form. Then we have Chopper listening to Biblo because apparently he has something to say, but the only one who can translate is actually Chopper. And Biblo is saying something to Chopper, and Chopper's all like, what? And we don't get the translation because we cut right back to Emu's haki emanating, causing Luffy and Gabin to fall over. And I'm still saying that his haki is actually harming them right now because that's how potent he's outputting it right now. Comes bursting up. We see his bigger, beefier form. So if the form that Emu was taken was like a regular demon form, then the form he's taken here might as well be the Demon Lord. I'm christening this his Demon Lord form. Yo, Julian, good to see you. An impressive feat to escape Honebami's. I keep wanting to say Honobami's, but Honebami's wrath at the cost of only one arm. There will be nothing left of thee after the next. And then Gabin tells him, take your people and get off of Elbaf now. And then Luffy's arguing, saying, like, I can't do that. And then when Emu goes in for the Honebami, preparing to kill them both, Harudin comes in with Gungnir and intercepts him. And despite the harm it's doing to him, because even after punching Emu, he's definitely hurting because he's kind of spitting up just a little bit of blood, but manages to punch away Emu, but not before Emu just flicks a couple of Omen Flames at Harudin, and he basically tanks it because he was prepared this time. Random piece of lint. I really need to keep Denim from coming in here and shaking himself because he sheds sometimes. But Harudin comes in, tries protecting Gabin and Luffy. And Luffy's arguing, saying, like, I made sure to fight on a full stomach. Don't worry, I can do this. And he starts pumping his legs by basically using his legs as a lever to pump the rest of his body up. And Omen Flames come in. Harudin uses his body to shield them, but it doesn't keep him down, though. He feels it. It's painful, but it doesn't keep him down, though. Harudin learned. All it took was him getting hit once to be all like, yeah, I need to be prepared for the next time. And then Emu's floating above him. And then he says, remember, Mr. Ya, Elbaf will never give in. Our warriors are always prepared to die in glorious battle. Don't be stupid, you will die. But if I die, there's still Loki. And then Loki comes in going, that's right, brother. And Loki comes in because apparently Gerd has healed him up enough for him to fight alongside Harudin. This is exactly what Harold wanted for both Loki and Harudin to help each other for the future of Elbaf. And in this chapter, we finally get that moment where they finally work together. And Luffy joins in as well, and we get a Gum Triple General Gokoku Sovereignty. And Imu braces for the attack as he gets hit with it full force. Now, and it appears that this was also imbued with Haki as well. So it remains to be seen if this did anything substantial to Imu at this point. Because Imu is in an even denser form. Actually, you want to know something? This reminds me of how Kaido had another form, had another beefier, more monstrous-looking form. He had his basic state, his basic man-beast state, and then when he was in his drunken state, the hue of his scales grew deeper, his face changed, his teeth went from just being moderately jagged here and there to being full-on jagged. He became even beefier than before. This form of Imu reminds me of like the secondary monstrous state of Kaido during that fight. So if anything, I would say that Imu is way more tankier now. However, when Haki comes into play, a person's toughness is very debatable. But at the same time, this is a brand new form of Imu that we have never seen. Because here's the thing though, when you think about it, his whole visage now is basically characteristic of like a pentagram now, because he has the horns, he has his ears, well, he has his multiple horns that can be the 4 parts, and then he has his goatee that essentially makes his head a 5-pointed upside down star now, which is characteristic of, of like a upside down pentagram. That is literally what his face looks like now. The goatee really does add on to it. But seeing Loki and Harudin joining together to unleash a Gokoku sovereignty, it's good, because this is what Harold wanted before he died. This is exactly what he wanted before he died. And I'm so glad to see these brothers working together. Now, mind you, we don't know if they're going to be buddy-buddy. Probably doubt that they will. But at the same time, the fact that they joined together to do this along with Luffy, this should lead to a little bit. We all know that this attack isn't going to take an Imu out, but he's going to feel that pain. Yeah. And it's kind of funny to see Loki call Harudin brother. Yeah. And I think Harudin was surprised by Loki calling him brother as well, because he had like this exclamation point over his head when he says this. So I think he's surprised that Loki is saying that. Elbaf is getting crazier and crazier. You know it. Let me see what you guys have said, because you guys have said so much. Thank you for stopping by so much. I love reading out your comments. Let's see. Idad Katakuri. Okay, what do y'all talk about? Luffy was humbled 3 times. Sabaody, impelled down by Magellan, and of course the Paramount War. I think they called it God Valley, but it will be fully flashback of Harold. God Valley, which means we're going to see everything that went down. What up, Halster? Halster, good to see you as well. If I didn't mention you when you first popped in here, my sincerest apologies. Let's see. Idad, Katakuri, and Kaido as well. So who's excited for the movies? Yeah, I am. I would too, but he actually defeated Kaido and Katakuri, let him win. God Valley is going to be a blast. Had no clue what BAAD is or whether it's canon or not in the first place. Some people were making references that it's probably BAAD is like a pseudonym, like a acronym, the same way that we saw SAD or MAD. You know, the group that Vegapunk, Queen, and Judge and Caesar were a part of. And then you have SAD, which is what Caesar was messing with. So it could be another scientific group or maybe some sort of Navy acronym for something. Mural piece, or am I overthinking it? He has another form. So are you telling me that Emu has more forms than Frieza? So guys, thoughts on Emu's form? I really like it. It looks really ominous, but I've seen that a lot of people find it underwhelming for some reason. I like it. I like it. He's looking even more demonic than before, but what we saw before, it was akin to seeing a member of the Otsutsuki clan go to their next stage. But Emu being in this even more demonic form, this is the type of form you would see in Darksiders, where you would see a character like Samael. It gives me Samael vibes, complete with the massive horns and the massive wings, except Emu's wings aren't upside down. But it reminds me of what you would see of basically demons and demon lords and Darksiders in terms of his appearance. He's bigger, he's beefier, and way more powerful than before. So seeing this more brawny looking state, I like it. This is me. You know me, I'm very big on aesthetics. I always mention it whenever I'm watching the anime episodes. But I'm big on aesthetics, and the appearance of Emu gives this Yujiro Hanma type visage in terms of like how big his body is, or Hanayama, or maybe even like Musashi Miyamoto, maybe even Pickle a little bit. But in terms of his body being like even bigger than before and looking more monstrous, I like it. Were people expecting him to look way more demonic in terms of just looking sheer evil and like having a mouth full of teeth and him being all snarling and just pure evil looking? No. I feel like with this form, there's also a hint of serenity in the design as well. Such as like, while he may look even more demonic, he is at peace being in this state right now, even though to everyone else, it looks like an even more evil looking form, if that makes sense. And you wouldn't think about peace. You wouldn't think about peaceful looking demons or demons that look peaceful or have a peaceful aesthetic to them. You wouldn't think that, but that's the sort of vibe I'm getting from it. So I like it. I like it when people have new forms. We get to learn more things about them. So let me see what else she says. I think people are underwhelmed because it looks a bit more generic, but I personally really like it too. I feel like Emu's the type of person that doesn't need to transform any more than they need to because they know how to regulate their power. Well, he knows. I can't say they because it is a he. Because he knows how to regulate his own power. So he doesn't need to transform any more than he needs to, possibly only transforming when the situation calls for it. Because apparently the form he's had now was not enough. So he decides to change even more. The forms look fine too, but we all know that you can't please everybody. Exactly. The same way people have an issue with Wolverine right now. Mind you, I haven't looked into it because I don't care about people's opinion about Wolverine if they're just gonna moan and groan about like, hey, Wolverine looks like this, Wolverine looks like that. I'm like, shut up, no one cares. You're just waiting for someone to hit like and want an echo chamber of people who don't like what you like, who don't like what you don't like as well. I'm like, stop moaning and groaning. For what? For what? You're gonna be the same people saying like, oh, he looks amazing in the anime. You're gonna be the same people. But I'm gonna just call this Emu bound man equivalent form. Form looks sick. It looks a lot more like a Lunarian now. Exactly. It's not an equivalent, but I find it funny about it that way. He has every other attribute of a Lunarian. Also, I need someone to grab and pull Emu by that goatee. It's mandatory for me to be happy now. I know Luffy's gonna make some Looney Tune shenanigans using that goatee. Let me see. Let's see. The whole arm's covered in hockey. And we haven't really seen his final form because we only got a glimpse of it. So I don't think it's his final form. It's just an upgrade. Yeah, I think it's an upgrade as well. The same way that Kaido upgraded himself during the final fight with Luffy. Let's see. Harudean finally having a huge moment despite him getting beat up by Gear 2 Luffy and Dressrosa. But he could literally have a training off screen. Who knows? Harudean finally acknowledging Loki, him saying, even if I die, there's still Loki. This is a brother moment. It really is. Even though I don't have a brother of my own, that will probably be something I say. If such a moment were to ever happen in my life, but I can say that it probably won't. Let's see. Hashtag HSI Harudean Solo Zemu. Harold is somewhere in Valhalla smiling down on his sons. He is. Emu was prepared when Loki, Luffy, and Harudean was ready to attack. Emu was his hands up. Yeah, he puts his hands up to defend himself. Not in a defensive way like, oh, this is about to hurt. More like, I'm prepared to take this. So, I want to say that this form might be defensive. Wouldn't it be crazy if this form is more defensive and the other form we... Okay, real quick. Y'all know how we had Bounce Man. Y'all know how we had Snake Man. And you know how we had Tank Man, even though Tank Man was situational. Forms that were, one was power, one was attack, one was defense, one was speed. What if Emu's first form was speed? And this form is either attack or defense. What if he has different forms to accommodate for different needs? One for speed, one for attack power, one for defense. What if it works like that? Because that would be yet another parallel of the Gum Gum fruit of the Hito Hito no Mi that he's already replicated. Because remember, he can use Omen Flames to basically stretch his arm and find his opponent and still hit them even if they dodge. Like Jet Culverine. So what if he has different forms that have different uses and different advantages? And this one just being bulkier, mind you, it's a much bigger size. So what if this one is tankier? I have so many questions. Glaharuddin was able to have a huge moment. At the end of the day, he didn't do significant damage to Emu because no Supreme King Haki, but he's still a giant. Let's see. I don't know where this arc is going. If his point is to show how strong Emu is, why are we seeing everyone punching him like crazy? We all know that this attack isn't taking him out. Gonna feel the pain. Getting crazier and crazier. I want the story to switch back to Sanji. I want to see how he deals with Killingham and how he comes out of that masochistic restriction that's on him. What it was called, it was you have a masochistic tendency or masochistic it was a masochistic something. Getting back to Sanji and figuring that out so we can see if Sanji can ascend to a level of a king and then beat Killingham, that still needs to be done. Emu tanking the attack just like Emu surviving against Roger, Garp, Whitebeard, Rocks, Kaido, and Big Mom during God Valley. And the crazy thing is, that wasn't even Emu's real body back then. That was literally him projecting in like a secondary state out of Saturn. That wasn't even his real body, and he still regened right back after suffering attacks from all of the strongest pirates during that time. He tanked it using another person's body as a proxy and still continued on. This is Emu, like right here in the flesh right now. And it's Loki, Luffy, and Haruddin hitting him. This isn't going to take him out. We're not cool. I'm not your brother. I mean, no matter how much attack he's gotten, the only ones that have given a sliver of damage to him were from Loki and Gabin. Emu transforming into another form feels very Souls-like game when you defeat the boss fight, but there's this cutscene after you were like, oh, a phase 2. DJ, I literally made this comment about how you see people, you're fighting people in Neo, and then when you get them down to like half health or like the second stage, they decide to, you know what? I'm going to become a yokai and gain a brand new form, and they're even more dangerous than before. It is literally like that. Also, I will be playing the DLC for Neo. I will be playing it. Oh no, Loki, Emu with a demon back would go kind of hard design-wise. Emu's form is cool and all, but it's not One Piecey. It did not feel like a One Piece character. I'm going to have to disagree with you there, because you do realize that saying that Emu's body doesn't appear to look like it does not feel like a One Piece character in a world where Big Mom, Kaido, Whitebeard, and pretty much every single body type all over the world. This is nothing, but give me a sec, family. Okay. For me, it still fits because we've seen so many various looking body types within One Piece. So saying that this character's body doesn't look One Piece does not feel like a One Piece character. I feel like if you had a woman whose body was shaped realistically in One Piece, people would say this does not look like a One Piece character. Because we all know how Oda draws his women. But when it comes to men, they are always super varied. So Imu's body still fits here. Because one, we've never seen a body type like this or a visage like this in an individual. But it's not so otherworldly where it doesn't fit the aesthetics of One Piece. Because if anything, his visage kind of reminds me of a subdued Rock's in a way. Because Rock's had big wings, but his visage was even larger than it was before when he was Domi Reversi'd. And we've seen this sort of body size and body type with this visage before. It was Rock's during God Valley. Though with Imu, it's way more detailed and giving him... well, way more. It's giving him a whole lot of extra on top of his visage on top of everything we've seen due to the state he was in before. So I don't know about you, but it looks looks fine to me. That's just me though. Yeah, let's see. He has willingly taken some damage because he knows he can take it, kind of like Gunko taking a point-blank attack from Usopp and just regenerating. Insomniac has their own version of Wolverine. They don't like copying MCU related. No, it's more so like they have an issue with how characters look in general, because some people don't think that Logan looks like how Wolverine should look. And it's like, you can't. I go back to what Ozzy said earlier on. Doesn't matter how hard you try, you just can't please some people, and some people are always going to moan and groan. Let me see. Nah, there's no way Imu has a defensive form. I think people just want Hugh Jackman as Wolverine for eternity, although this Wolverine in the Insomniac game is a lot more better and comic accurate, and that's how characters should be. Don't base them off of the actors, but base them off the comics. That's the reason why the Spider-Man games are so good. Yeah, Imu is a devil, but he could have definitely like a Zoan-like Luffy having different forms. Captain, are you pondering what I'm pondering? I think that might be. Let's see. Let me see. It's time to rehydrate. No. But with that logic, that also implies Imu has an equivalent of a Gear 5-2, which I guess would be the mural form, now that I think of it. Sanji needing a tweak in mentality is the Toulon didn't read of Sanji's whole current problem with being unable to use Conquerors. Let's see, I kind of like Imu's form. We need to agree with it because this is literally what Oda's going for. This is still Oda's story, but opinions are opinions. Look at Gear 5, Luffy transforming into Genie. Why does everyone not hate that just like Imu's form in this chapter? Because it is Genie. I just noticed there's no flame on the back of the new form. Was there flames before, or am I missing something? Ravi, I mentioned that earlier. In this state, he doesn't have the Omen flames on his back because they're actually around his wrist and waist now. They move from his back, and now they're floating around his waist now. They're like floating bands and a floating belt around him now. Trying to see chat. I don't care about your stupid little mobile game. No one asked for that. There was no black flame before. He only had the black clouds with eyes. Yeah. If you go over to page 8 and 9, when he says an impressive feat to escape Honebami's wrath at the cost of only one arm, the flames are now around his forearms and around his legs. It's not really near his waist. It's just literally where his thighs are. They're just floating around, and they all have eyes. And we see the covenant mark on his arm now. So now this leads to another question. Why does he have a covenant mark? If he is the one who bestows a covenant mark, why does he have one? Wouldn't the person who has the ability to manipulate the abyss and bestow covenant marks on another individual be able not need the tattoo on them, not need the mark on them? So I'm kind of curious as to why he has that. Not unless it has to be on him in order for him to use the abyss. Despite the power that he wields, he still needs to meet the criteria in order to manipulate it as well. Which just brings in more questions. This is what Shanks was talking about. Even if you discovered who Emu is, it would just lead to even more questions. Feel like people nowadays are so used to designs with a sort of comedic parts to it that it seems a design that is just always cool feels odd. See, one thing I've learned about One Piece is that it can do comedy well, but when it's time to get serious, people can absolutely look terrifying. And this is one of those moments where an individual who is not known for being comedic, let alone having moments that are supposed to be comedic, this is where Emu looks way more serious than half the people that Luffy would be fighting against half the time. I mean, people hated Gear 5 because it's not what they expected, which was Gear Death. This is why I tell people that it's good to set your expectations at a 50-50 level so that when stuff happens that you weren't expecting, you're more surprised by it than stuff not happening that you were expecting and being disappointed by it. Oda's going on breaks. It means he's busy with 2 movies that's going to be released. We all know Oda is healthy. Hope so. I wouldn't blame him if he took these breaks in order to rest up a little bit more, because Oda really has been firing on every single cylinder ever since we got to Elbaf. So if he takes a break for himself, more power to him. Because mangakas be put on so much pressure in order to get chapters out consistently, day in and day out. They got to have stuff ready. They got to have stuff cleared. They got to do all this. They got to do all that. But I would much prefer a mangaka take a break to make sure their health is fine than them take a break and then for them to just constantly put out chapter after chapter after chapter after chapter, and then they have to take an even longer break because of it. So I would much prefer Oda takes a break to be, completely healthy than just try and put out multiple chapters simply because people just want more of them. It would be unfair to him. But now that I've caught up completely, it's Oda's story. He has his own power scaling. People can agree with it or not. It's still Oda's own power scaling and decisions. Exactly. Oda doesn't do power scaling. That's another thing. Oda really doesn't do power scaling. He does showcases of how strong a person is by seeing how strong a person is against another strong individual. But he doesn't do power scaling like people, us fans. We're the ones who do the power scaling, but Oda doesn't really necessarily do that. I mean, the only way we know of how powerful a character is by their display of power within a chapter or from other powerful characters within the series. Like Rayleigh saying, like, the way I am right now, I couldn't take out Blackbeard. So that puts into your mind, like, oh, Blackbeard has the capacity of being able to beat Rayleigh, who many of us seen like, oh, this dude's OP. We said this before. And now we have another moment where we all knew Whitebeard was just like one of the goats of this entire series. But the fact that he, out of everyone in the Rocks Pirates, was the only one to clash with Rocks and walk away without a scratch, literally just clashing with a demonized Rocks, being all like, this is not you at all, and just fighting him, and then walking away. It's all like, yeah, I had enough of this. Whitebeard, this just props him up even more. This is power scaling for One Piece without it being called power scaling directly. Rocks being able to clash with an ancient giant like Herald, just casually, with style so powerful he could literally explode his sword strikes. We don't even know what that's called still. Like him being powerful enough to basically just cause explosions when he swings his sword? Like, look at the whole Kid and Shanks situations. We knew Shanks was strong, but we didn't know how strong until 1079. Yeah, we did not know, because for a long time we're all like, we see Shanks, but we don't see Shanks doing anything. And even after he used Haki, one of the big examples for Shanks, and we'll get to the summary in a moment here, one of the biggest examples of showcasing that there are indeed levels to Haki and all that is the fact that he sent his Haki from out to sea all the way into Wano, and that caused someone of Ryokugyu's level, an admiral no less, a Logia no less, to literally leave his Logia state and be all like, fine, I'm leaving. When you make an admiral leave because you're not even in the country, you're out at sea, and your hockey is all like, you better put this stuff on lock, sir, or otherwise I'm coming in there. You strong. That was a strong, powerful moment for Shanks. But the moment Kid tried to show up and cause some mess is when we saw that Shanks, he doesn't toy with anybody. He decimates them. He literally saw minutes into the future and went like, oh, this kid's about to mess up all these people who are here with me. Can't have that. And before Kid could do anything, he blitzed him and then divine departured him and crippled Kid in literally one move. He didn't delay. He saw the issue, and then he dealt with it. Thusly, just dealt with it right then and there. And then he just walked away. Didn't say a word. And then he had Dorian Brogy just basically destroy his entire ship. And for a pirate, losing your ship is pretty major. So there's a lot of power scaling moments in One Piece, but it's not direct power scaling per se. But you know what time it is? Same thing with Garp. We didn't know why he was called a hero until we heard about his feat at God Valley and him nearly obliterating Full of Lead Island. Exactly. Seeing Garp in his old age, literally in his 70s, Nuka Town, and then witnessing him fighting rocks alongside Roger with a Galaxy, Galaxy Infinitum, I think it was called. Yeah, Galaxy Infinitum. Seeing that there's levels to his strength where it was enough to bring down rocks. Not Galaxy Impact. I'm talking about the attack both Roger and Garp used to finish their fight with rocks. I think it was called Galaxy Infinitum. And then Roger used like God of Fire Ace. It was, I can't remember, but it was those moves. I guarantee on that day, Emu was seething. He couldn't have Garp killed when he was dubbed the hero. But yeah, so we went through this chapter. I said my piece. Time to go to the One Piece summary time, because I know you guys love my dulcet tones. Did they put the whole summary? Yes, they got the whole summary here. Let's go. Luffy forces himself to stand up as he himself wonders how he is still alive after being stabbed, but he knows that if he leaves his Gear 5's form in this state, it would be very bad for him. He walks over to the injured Gabin, who is upset that Emu sliced his arm off, and Luffy apologizes for it, thinking he lost it trying to protect him, but Gabin retorts he only did it for Elbaf's sake. As he attends to his wound, Luffy asks Gabin who Emu is exactly, but Gabin says it's not something anyone should know in this world, although if he were to call him anything, it would be God. Speaking of which, Emu, who had fallen into the underworld as a result of his fight with Gabin, transforms into an even more monstrous appearance, while saying that had he known on God Valley just how powerful the Roger Pirates would become since that fateful day, he would have made sure to destroy them all along with rocks, and he flies back up to the Sun World. At the Owl Library, Chopper is relieved to see the books were unharmed from the fire as Saul asks him to communicate with Biblo. As he feels he is trying to say something and Chopper's animal nature will enable him to understand what it is. Biblo says something to Chopper, which leaves him shocked. I wonder what it is. Is it a way to counter the Domi Reversi? And we find out why Chopper was able to do it without fatally wounding someone. Too many questions! Emu then appears before Luffy and Gabin and admits to the latter he is impressed to only lose an arm when facing Honebami Toshiro. But Gabin sarcastically offers an applause, knowing he only has one hand left. Emu declares that nothing will be left after his next attack, as Gabin tells Luffy to take his crew and flee Elbaf. But Luffy refuses to do so. As Gabin readies to take the full force of Honebami Toshiro, Harudin arrives and strikes Emu with Gungnir, which sends him flying back. But as he does, he fires some omen at Harudin, which explode as Emu slams into the tree trunk. Thankfully, Harudin protected himself with his shield, though it falls apart afterwards. He attends to Gabin, who orders him to take Luffy and flee Elbaf, as he sees no way to defeat Emu. Luffy yells he is not going anywhere, as he claims he can heal back up on his own quickly thanks to all the food he ate earlier, to Gabin's disbelief. Gabin has not seen Luffy literally eat so much food that he's bigger than your average 4 to 7 foot person, and then watch all that food just instantly digest into his body and he's right as rain again. He has not seen that. He sees some omen flying towards them, but Harudin scoops up both Luffy and Gabin while using himself as a shield to block the attack. Gabin tells Harudin to fall back so they can come up with an effective plan, but Harudin proudly states that Elbaf will never yield and every warrior will gladly go down fighting. Gabin point-blank says to Harudin that fighting Emu means he will die, but Harudin says that is okay since Elbaf will still have Loki, something the latter agrees with as he starts running towards them, having recovered enough from his injuries to rejoin the fight. Just as he arrives, Luffy recovers, all of which leaves Gabin incredulous. Together, Luffy, Harudin, and Loki unleash a combined attack called Sansho Gokoku, unleashing a powerful blast that blows Emu away despite blocking. So the chapter notes here is Gabin reveals the true identity of Emu to Luffy. Emu transforms further and returns to the battle. At the Owl Library, Jaguar D. Sol asks Chopper to converse with Biblos since it seems like it might be important, and Harudin arrives to protect Luffy and Gabin from Emu's attack and is later joined by Loki. Having somehow recovered from his injuries, thank you Gerd, Luffy along with Harudin and Loki clashes with Emu. Oh wait, it was referring to Luffy. Nah, thank you food. Luffy along with Harudin and Loki clashes with Emu. And that's where this chapter ends. And the next chapter we're supposedly supposed to be beginning is going to be on the September 7th. I have so many questions. But here, real quick, I want to go over to the Akuma no Mi again. Let me see. Let me see if they added in like his new appearance. I know Gabin has seen some ridiculous sights of Roger's strength and dexterity when they made their way to become pirates, and he's still surprised by how Luffy, Loki are already back up. Yeah, you go into the new world, you can't possibly anticipate how things are going to go. That's just how crazy things are. Let me see. It doesn't look like they added anything new to the Akuma no Mi. Because I'm looking at the Abyss, Immortality, Strength and Weaknesses, and the appearance. Yeah, they have not added his new state yet. Because they only have his basic appearance when he's in this form. They only have Gunko's state when she was possessed by Emu, but they don't exactly have Emu's appearance when he changes into this bigger, beefier form. Like they have a further transformed state. Because here's the thing. Emu's cloak his cloak had the symbol for the Abyss on it, like for a covenant on it. But then that translated to being directly on his arm. When you see Emu from the back, you see the covenant mark on his cloak, but then it just moves directly onto his arm now. Wait, it did? Yeah. I believe this is chapter... I think this is after he stabbed Luffy. But yeah, on the back of his cloak, it has the mark of the Covenant on there. But when he goes into his his Demon Lord state, it goes up to his arm now. Now, mind you, the mark isn't actually on his arm in his normal state, normal demon state. because all it is just like the lines and those weird circles that's going up and down his arm. But it's on his cloak, though. So I'm just going down the list. Let me see. Immortality, Devil Fruit. Yeah. Cause I'm looking at Emu right now. And this shows it's this one panel from when he was flying in order to free the rest of the Holy Knights. He doesn't have a mark on his arm, but it's on his cloak. But then it just moves over to his actual cloak. They do not have it. They do not have it where it shows. They don't have the pages where it shows where his where the mark is anywhere on his body, though. But I still find it interesting. Observation Hockey, Conqueror's Hockey. Weapons of the first 20. We saw Bohu, Fragorok, Stigma, Grom, Nemesis, Axis, Xingtian, Honebami Toshido. If I just scroll all the way down here. No new sword? Nope. No new weapon. He's still using the Honebami. Because apparently it's known as a bone-cutting sword. So he hasn't pulled out a new weapon yet. He still likes using the Honebami. Simply because of how powerful it is. Because not only can he cut with it, but the snake-like omen flames that are around him, they can also attack as well. So this is also... The Honebami is already a powerful sword to use right now. Yeah, let's see. Recovering down at Elbaf's dead world, Underworld, Emu unleashed a burst of Supreme King Haki, knocking out the beasts in the area. Overcome with anger at his own failure to recognize the future threat the Roger pirates would pose, Emu transformed further into a bulkier form before flying back up to the Sun World. He was in disbelief to see that Gabin had survived Onebami with only a lost arm and prepared to unleash another attack to finish both Gabin and Luffy. Before he could do so, however, Harudin intercepted, punching Emu away with Gungnir. Emu tried launching Omen projectiles only for them to be blocked as he crashed back into the Atom Tree. Emu quickly recovered and flew back over, trying more Omen attacks, only for Harudin to block them using his own body. To make matters worse, Loki arrived to assist just as Luffy finally managed to recover, with the trio using Sansho Gokoku against Emu, and that was today. Now, I am looking... This is an interesting little thing here. Let's see. Emu is the second oldest known living thing in the world. Only Zunisha, the elephant that carries the nation of Zo on its back, is confirmed to be older. So Emu is the second oldest individual in the entirety of One Piece. That's crazy. Also, one thing to have here is the number 16 is relevant to Emu and by extension to world nobles. Per Goro Awase, the two syllables in Emu's name can also be read as 1, I per Onyomi, and 6, Mu per Kunyomi, which makes 16. So I per Onyomi and 6 Mu per Kunyomi. The weapon utilizing the Mother Flame is depicted as firing 16 beams downward. When a young Don Quixote do Flamingo was lynched by the mob, a man states that a celestial dragon shot his sons 16 times. As an adult, his ultimate attack is called 16 Holy Assassin's Bullets. When fully transformed, a ring of black flames looms behind his head and bears 16 eyes on it, which are identical in appearance to Emu's. So a lot of 16 numbers linking here. Can he summon a sword in his new form? I mean, he's using one in this state. But it remains to be seen if he can just take his sword out of the omen rings that's literally around his wrists, which I wouldn't be surprised if he's capable of doing. Oh, here's another one. Regarding Imu's name, the Japanese word imu means to shun, to avoid, or to detest, with imu beki meaning abominable or detestable. The katakana for Norona, when being used as Hanzi stroke order, can be written as the Hanzi or kanji, which means God. The katakana of imu are the radicals that form the kanji Buddha, essentially. By literomancy, they can be considered as broken god or broken Buddha. Im, transliterated as, well, it puts the kanji in there in Japanese, is a Jotun in Norse mythology. The name Nerona seems to derive from Nero, a Roman emperor suspected of burning Rome to build his planned Golden House, Domus Aurea, while blaming Christians for the flagration. Nerona can especially be seen as a reference to the Christian history painting Nero's Torches. This is all very interesting. It doesn't show a little bit more information about his new form, though, but that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. But overall, this was a good chapter, and definitely one to go on break for. We got Harudin, Loki, and Luffy unleashing Gum Gum Triple General Gokoku sovereignty directly on Imu. And Imu is in an even bigger, even more monstrous and demonic looking form now. Because his hair looks even more flame-like. You know what this reminds? You know what his hair reminds me of? For anyone who's a solo leveling fan, his hair reminds me of Baron. Like his hair is just like Monarch of the White Flame. Literally just hair just flowing, and it reminds me of Baron. Big old horns coming out of his head. Dark skin, just like Baron. But Baron didn't have wings, though. And he wasn't, like 15 feet tall. Because he is definitely huge. But this was a nice chapter. Come back from break on your birthday? Nice! Nice! Imu in this form reminds you a lot of Killua's father, Silva? I can see a little bit of it. I can see it a little. I can see it a little. Hmm. I can see it a little. But yeah, this was a good chapter. What time is it? It's 3:15. I still got Sakamoto Days, and I still got Hunter x Hunter. Let me double check and make sure that those chapters are up. But I believe they should be. Sakamoto Days, Hunter x Hunter. How many anime episodes is left in this season? Movie is coming before next season, right? Because we're only getting a certain number of episodes per part. Have we reached the 20s yet for Elbaf? Like, ever since we came back? I thought we were supposed to be getting, like, roughly 20-something, 23, 24 episodes for the beginning of Elbaf, I think. Okay, there's a new chapter of Sakamoto Days. And there's a new chapter of Hunter x Hunter. All right, cool. 26? I'm wondering, how far are we in? Let's see. The One Piece Elbaf arc began airing on Crunchyroll, starting with episode 1156. Operating under a seasonal format, the 26-episode annual block is divided into two 13-episode parts. Okay, so it says episodes 1157 to 1173 plus. Part 2 return following a mid-year break. The second block of 2026 episodes continues through October. So hold on. Let me go to this article from Crunchyroll, which they put up back in February. Let's see. That doesn't help me at all because it doesn't say anything. It just says when Egghead ends. Crunchyroll, you are useless. I asked you for one simple thing. Let me see. I'm trying to find when we're supposed to be getting like the last episode for this first half. You count 20 for how many we've had? Let me see. Oh, okay. Part 1, Core 1, is that how you say it? Core 1 was 1156 through 1168, airing from April 5th to July 5th under the anime's new seasonal release format. You can track, I'm not worried about that. I'm trying to see the other ones we have. Yeah, first part was, okay, so that's part 1. So we're already in part 2 right now. So if it stopped at 1168, 1169, 1170, 1171, 1172, 1173, 1174, and I believe we're supposed to have 1175 today? Or is it 1174 today? I think it's 1175 today. So I feel like we have a couple more episodes left before this part ends, and then we go on break for the anime. So we don't have long. We actually don't have long. But overall, this was a good chapter. Sorry. I need to go ahead and get started with the next chapter of Sakamoto Days because I still got some stuff to do today. So everyone from Kratos to Ozzy to Ravi to Halster to Fizz to Julian to Juke to Cohagen, every one of you who showed up here today, all I can say to you is we're going on break for One Piece, so we got to see what happens next in 1174 today. Thank you. We got to see what happens next in February. I mean, not. We got to see what happens next in September. My apologies. Not February. Oh, it's 1175 today. Okay, so I think I was right. But yeah, we're gonna have to see where this story goes in September. But overall, I enjoyed myself. So with that being said, hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. Like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Even check out my membership here on YouTube and me over on Patreon because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. And because I know you're coming back anyway. Have a fantastic day, and once again, as always, later peoples, on to Sakamoto Days!